what's up? It's Grace, and today I'm going to be doing a historical fiction book tag. Historical fiction is definitely one of my favorite genres to read within. It is just so interesting and I love it so much. And this video is inspired by the book Orphan Monster Spy by Matt Killeen. And this video is also sponsored by Penguin Teen, so a big thank you to them. Before I delve on into the tag questions, I'll give you a little synopsis on what Orphan Monster Spy is about. It sounds so interesting. It's set in 1939 in Germany, which is one of my favorite time periods to read within. And we follow a 15-year-old girl. Her name is Sarah. Her mother is unfortunately killed at gunpoint by the government, and so Sarah is on the run because they want to take her and either kill her or just send her off to a concentration camp. So while she's on the run, she meets this guy and he wants to recruit her as a spy. And her mission is to go to a boarding school which is housed by a lot of the daughters of high-ranking Nazis. And her mission is to befriend one of the daughters of a very high-ranking doctor who has the blueprints to a bomb that is to destroy the cities of Western Europe. And so she is tasked to, acquire those blueprints. And additionally, I think before the war, she had like prior acting lessons, or she was in a school for acting or something, which I find really interesting because I've been in acting since I was like in 4th grade. So I think that aspect and that little detail in there is so interesting. Just everything about this novel seems right up my alley. It's set in 1939 in Germany, and we follow this girl who's going to be recruited as a spy. I'm just so excited to read this. It's definitely different from a lot of the World War II books that I have picked up, so I'm going to be reading this quite soon. Getting on to the questions, the first question is, why do you like to read historical fiction? And to me, reading historical fiction is like time traveling. I'm learning so much about that era, and I know that a lot of it, it's historical fiction, so it's not all factual, but there is definitely fact in there, and I learned so much more, by reading historical fiction, I think, than anything. And I just feel like I'm transported to that time and I'm getting a new mindset. And my favorite time period to read, again, is during World War II because I don't understand the mindset of, that time. And so I really like to read anything that is set in that time with, different people with different goals and missions. So I just love reading historical fiction. And if you ask me why I love it, it's like I'm time traveling. So the second question is, what is the first historical fiction book you ever read? And I had to think about this one because I don't think my answer is right. I just went to my Goodreads and I looked at like what is the first sort of historical fiction book that I've read, because I know I've read other ones that I just don't remember because I didn't have a Goodreads at that time, and I have a really hard time with like remembering every single book that I've read so far. So based off my Goodreads, and that is The Diviners by Libba Bray. This is set in the 1920s, and I feel like it's very true to that era. It's set in New York, so it's all very glamorous. I know that it's not all factual because it is a sort of paranormal novel, so it's not all real, or I mean it is if you believe in that sort of thing. But this is the only novel I've ever read set in the 20s, and I really love reading that time period. So I read The Great Gatsby, but I didn't like that book. But so this one, it was really good. And I just remember not knowing what to expect when I did pick up this novel, and then by the end I was like, I think this is my new favorite book, and it's definitely one of my favorite novels. I still have yet to read the next 2, and I really should do that. Okay, so question number 3 is, where do you draw the line between historical fiction and contemporary? And for me, I would feel like anything from the 80s on, I don't consider historical fiction. I read Eleanor and Park, which was set in the 80s, and while I was reading it, I was like, this isn't historical fiction, it's contemporary. 70s is a little bit iffy for me. I've never read a book in the 70s. I think that'd be interesting, but I wouldn't classify that as historical fiction. So maybe from like the 70s on. Okay, and question number 4 is, have you read a book set in each of these eras and stack your favorites? So the first 2, I'm sure I have, but I would consider it more like historical fiction fantasy, and I can't even tell you exactly when those settings take place because I feel like they're in a different world because it's magical. So the first is 1600s or before. I'm sure I have, but again, it's like a magic system one. 1700s, I'm sure I have, but 1800s, yes, I can classify. Definitely have. That is one of my, I think it's my second favorite time period to read within, and it's like the Victorian era, and that is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This is such a great book. I love this book so much. I read it during, I think, October, and it was just such a great, Halloween-y experience read. Definitely recommend this one. Super good. And the 1800s, Victorian time, I love it. And the next era is the 1920s to the 1930s, and again, the only one that I've read within that time period is The Diviners by Libba Bray. And the next era is the 1940s to the 1950s, and that is a definite yes for me. I couldn't pick a single favorite, so I picked 3. And the first one is Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine. This is set in 1943. We follow 2 girls, and one is a British spy, and she's the pilot of one of the planes and her passenger, and she has a passenger on that plane, and the plane crashes in Nazi-occupied France, and she is arrested by the Gestapo. And basically, they are just trying to torture out a mission out of her, and the mission is Verity. And she is, I mean, she can't give it up because that's treason, but you don't know. Oh my god, it's so hard to explain this book because it's so good, and there's just a lot of plot twists in this that was so freaking good. Just, if I could describe this book, there's a great friendship in here that is everything. And this is one of my favorite books of all time. I love it so much. And then my next 2 favorites are Between Shades of Grey and Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys, both, you know, written by Ruta Sepetys. So this one is set in 1941 in Lithuania, and this one is set in 1945. We follow multiple perspectives in this novel. So good. I think I have 2 separate reviews, so I'll go ahead and link them down below if you want to know more about these 2 books. And the next era is the 1960s to the 1970s or later. So I did read The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, and he never classified if that was entirely fiction or if it was nonfiction. The author was in the Vietnam War. He took stories from some of his buddies in the war, but he never said if they were 100% true or not. So I'm not sure if they were fiction. But I did read that, and I'm sure I've read some others, but I cannot think of them because I didn't document a lot of what I read before I got Goodreads. Question number 5 is, what is the last historical fiction book you read? And that is Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. This is, it's set in the 1800s, and it's set in Romania. This is a sequel to Stalking Jack the Ripper. So good. Definitely recommend it, guys. Read it if you haven't. Question number 6 is, what is your favorite historical fiction cover? And for me, that is a book I have not read, but it's on my to-be-read shelf, and that is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Dower. This is one of the books that I've had on my TBR shelf for so long. This cover, though, is so gorgeous, and I've heard so many great things about this novel. I don't know a lot about what it's about, but I'm hoping to just go into it and loving it. I know it's set in during World War II, and I believe it's set in Paris, but I'm really excited to read this and pick this up whenever I have. One of my best friends read it, she loved it, but I know that it's going to be sad, so I gotta be in like the mindset to read it, you know? The last question is, what is your favorite historical fiction novel? It'll probably come as no surprise, I talk about it literally all the time, and that is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This is the special edition, special anniversary edition. So gorgeous. I got this as a gift, and it's so beautiful. But this book changed my life, guys. Not to be dramatic, but to be dramatic for sure. It changed my life so many ways. Not only was this book like monumentally life-changing, the writing of Marcus Zusak is unreal. Boy, I don't even understand how you could be so lyrically beautiful and just to make me cry with one word. No one makes me cry with one word, but he does. And thinking of this book just makes me emotional, and he's coming out with a new book, and I just don't know if I'm ready, but I am. But guys, read this book. If you haven't, you will not regret it. So that was the historical fiction book tag. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, this tag was inspired by the book Orphan Monster Spy by Matt Colleen, which is out now. This is gonna be, I'm gonna read Restore Me by Tahar Mafi, which I've been putting off because I'm like, I'm freaking scared. I don't know what to expect from the novel. But I'm gonna read this after that because it sounds so interesting. And I'll probably have either, you know, include it in one of my wrap-ups or have a separate review. So I'll recommend it to you if I really enjoyed it. Let me know your favorite historical fiction novel. I would love to know, so if I haven't read it yet, I can put it onto my TBR list. I hope you're having a good time wherever you're at, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.